Israel has gone and bombed Syria again, as they do every week. However, this time, they actually bombed Aleppo International Airport. This is civilian infrastructure. It's the international airport where I have landed many times because the plane's going to Damascus. Sometimes they land in Aleppo. Some people get on, some people get off. They refuel and they go to Damascus. And they bombed it. Israel just went ahead and bombed it. Here's the statement from Sana. So this is the state outlet, basically. It's the Syrian Arab News Agency, but it belongs to the Syrian government. And you can see here the announcement on August 31st, 2022. They say that the Syrian army air defenses confronted Israeli missile aggression on some points in Damascus countryside. So that's one thing. And then down here, they talk about Aleppo. So they say that at 8 p.m., the Israeli enemy targeted Aleppo International Airport with a missile strike that caused material damage to the airport. When they say material damage, that means no one died or was hurt, thankfully. Still, dude, like, why are you doing this? Here, let me show you a video of the attack, and then I'll tell you. I mean, that looks like tons of missiles. Tons and tons of missiles. It looks like a barrage, right? You would say a barrage of rockets. A barrage of artillery fire and so on. It's not just one, it's multiple. Many. You guys remember a few months ago, this is actually 2 months ago, right? Now we're in September, whatever. It was in June. June 31st. What did the Israelis do? They went and bombed another international airport, but the one in Damascus. So, again, let me explain this to you guys on a map, okay? On a map, just so you can understand why this is so significant and outrageous. Here's Syria, okay? You have Damascus down here, if you can see my cursor. Down here, you have Damascus, which is the capital city. And then we have Aleppo up here, okay? Right here, that's Aleppo. You can actually even look. Do you see the plane, the little plane in pink right there? That means there's an airport, right? Obviously, you have other ones, but these are the biggest ones. And so, Damascus is the capital of Syria. Aleppo, however, is not the capital, but it is the biggest city. It has more, like its population is bigger. And on top of that, it is the economic center, the economic hub of Syria, right? So that's normal, right? You have, for example, Washington, D.C., which is the capital of the United States, but New York is the financial hub, etc., right? So that is why Aleppo is so important. In essence, in conclusion, the Israelis have bombed the two most important international airports inside Syria. And when they did that in June to Damascus, this was the aftermath. It's heartbreaking, right? Like seeing this, because you walk through this place a million times and then you see it like blown up. I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say that I have not already said. Because their crimes are always the same, right? Like it's repetitive. It is absolutely repetitive. How many times do I come on here and say, "Oh look, Israel bombs Syria"? Yeah. It's not, the problem is not me being repetitive; it's them repeating their criminal behavior, their aggression. Can you imagine the outrage? The outrage if the Russians had gone and bombed the two biggest, most important civilian international airports in Ukraine. Like I'm not saying they dropped a bomb somewhere in the baggage collection and thank God it didn't. No. This is complete destruction. When they bombed Damascus airport, the runway was completely and utterly destroyed. There is a satellite photo of the airstrike in Damascus, showing how the Israelis had specifically pinpointed the runway. Sorry, this is this is from 2018. This is the wrong photo. You know, this happens a lot. I'm looking for something, some Israeli attack on Syria, and then I say, oh no, wait, that was from April this year. Oh no, that was from 2019. And then same thing with Palestine. You look up, oh, the Israelis attacking the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and then you see, oh no, wait, this is from 2019. Yeah, this is how obscenely repetitive they are in their crimes that you actually mix up the dates on Google. I'm stunned, really. Here, this is the one I actually wanted to show you from this year, right? From this year's Israeli bombing, not the other ones. This is the photo. It was June 9th, and you can see here in the squares, the runway, you know, being completely taken out of action by the missile strikes. So this is, the missiles were specifically pinpointed in increments, equal increments on the runway, or runways, I should say, because they targeted both the civilian one and the military one. So the Israelis will, you know, purposely and in a very cold and calculated manner destroyed the most important airport in Syria, and in June, and then last night in Aleppo. Right? I mean, this is heartbreaking, you know, really. And you know what they say then? Actually, the Israelis don't say anything. It's their mouthpieces, their lapdogs, and their pussy-whipped bastards in the media who are going to come and justify this aggression for them. And then say thing, well, you know, Hezbollah, they can't even say Hezbollah properly, Hezbollah was bringing weapons through the airport. Yeah, so what? And you're bringing American weapons to the airport. You don't have, you're okay then with Syria bombing the airport in Tel Aviv? Like, if the shoe is on the other foot, would you be okay with that? Of course not. They would be outraged. But they somehow justify it against Syrians. It's okay to bomb Syria and bomb Syria's civilian infrastructure. That's okay, right? Because of Hezbollah. And then they say the same thing about last night in Aleppo, about damaging Aleppo like this, blowing it up. And then they say the same thing about Latakia. So again, I'll show you what the Israelis did a few months ago. They bombed a port. So Damascus, Aleppo airports, but this is a port, a dock. And this was in December. So we are in September. Yeah, like less than 12 months ago, not even a year ago. Here's the headline from The Guardian. They said, Israeli airstrike sets port of Latakia ablaze. I always love this. They say, says Syrian media, or says state media, like as if the fucking video of the port on fire, literally on fire in front of them, is not enough, right? Like, this is a way to kind of, you know, discredit the report and cover for Israel or the United States. They'll say like, oh my God, there was a strike in Syria, or, you know, in Lebanon or in Palestine, according to the state media there. Like, to sort of give this, like, put this, plant the seed in your mind that maybe it's not true because the state media said it. And you guys know the state media there, oh, they're dictators and authoritarians, and it's all totalitarian, right? Whatever the state says follows in the media. So don't believe them. You're The Guardian. You can't verify yourself. Here's a video of the flames. Completely destroyed, really. There you go. The Syrian state media report. The videos, they're not enough, apparently. The way the Israelis justify this is they say that Hezbollah, once again, are moving weapons through Syria's port. Iran is moving weapons through Syria's ports and airports, and so Israel has no choice but to go and bomb them because they feel so threatened, right? I posted this on Twitter and I showed it to you before. After they bombed Latakia, there was a container full of Nescafe 3-in-1. And I mean, to be fair, although they're not weapons, it is still a war crime to destroy so much Nescafe 3-in-1. That is without a doubt a war crime. But no, seriously, guys, my point is that, they say, oh, there are weapons in there, oh, there's this and that. They can't prove it. Where are these weapons? Right? If you're so confident in what you're doing, just show us the weapons, man. Prove it. No, they can't. No, they can't. They continuously do this for one reason. Do you see the pattern? Do you see what's going on now? Israel is purposely trying to take out all the major infrastructure inside Syria. That's what this is about. And Israel is doing this because it can. For some reason, this is allowed to happen. Right? No one cares. It's not even like something that necessarily makes the news or the headlines. Right? Like, who cares? Oh yeah, it was Syria, whatever. Right? They can keep doing this, but one day, this is going to provoke a war. This is going to turn into something bigger. And that's one worry by itself. But the fact that they are allowed to do this by the United Nations, by Russia, Russia is helping the Syrian army fight Al-Qaeda and so on. But when it comes to the Israelis, they really just let them do what they want. It's only the Syrian army that confronts these Israeli planes with surface to air missiles and so on. The United States, of course, supplies the weapons to do this, so they obviously don't have a problem with it. But I really want you to understand the bigger picture here. I want you to understand the bigger picture. Look at this map and listen to what I'm going to tell you. The United States is occupying 1/3 of Syria. So everything east, you see here Deir ez-Zor province. This is Deir ez-Zor province. And then up here you have Hasaki. Okay, so everything east of the Euphrates River. They're occupying this region because all the oil is there. Of course. All of the oil is here. The Americans are stealing the oil. They're stealing so much of it. And while they're stealing the oil and making sure that Syria is deprived of revenue, deprived of its natural resources, the Israelis on the left, on the west, they're coming in and destroying the major infrastructure. So the Israelis bombed Latakia port. That's Latakia here. Then last night, they bombed Aleppo International Airport. And then 2 months ago, they bombed Damascus International Airport. And they try to justify this by saying, oh, well, it's the regime. Oh, well, it's this and that. And I want you to ask yourself something. If, the shoe were on the other foot, if the roles were reversed, do you think that there would also be, that they would be this silent? Or would there be uproar if this were being done to Israel? Let's take Ukraine and Russia as an example. If Russia was doing this to Ukraine, would there not be uproar? Would there not be uproar? If Russia was stealing Ukraine's oil and bombing its international airports and ports and so on, there would be uproar. Yes? There already is uproar about Russia. So why is it a free-for-all when it comes to Syria? Why is it permissible? The answer is because the United States, Israel do whatever they like. The United States has a vested interest, as does Israel, in making sure that Syria is down, and they are kicking Syria while it is down. They couldn't win. They failed to get rid of Bashar al-Assad. They failed to execute their regime change project, and therefore they are now screwing Syria over with sanctions as well, with the Caesar Act sanction. And again, you'll have people from A to Z saying that, oh, that's the reason why we need sanctions, this and that. Yeah, you know what? Try going without petrol, without bread, and see how you fucking like it. Yeah? You go put yourself in the same conditions, deprive yourself of basic necessities, and let's see how much you're going to defend sanctions then, motherfucker. So this makes me very angry, because this situation is so bad. My cousins told me they prefer the bombs over the sanctions. Can you imagine? Like, that's how bad it is. Because they told me that at least when the bombs were coming down, the mortars, you could still go and get stuff. So they're destroying Syria with sanctions. They're making people suffer. It's very vindictive, isn't it? It's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to show you. And then they come and just, throw everything, including the kitchen sink at Syria. And then on top of that, destroying the infrastructure. This is all part of making sure that Syria cannot rebuild. That Syria is in a permanent state, I wouldn't say of limbo, but of misery. And, you can scream Assad and Hezbollah all you like, but you're making Syrian civilians, including people who don't even like the government, you're making them suffer because of this. And interestingly enough, it's only the government areas, meaning where most Syrians live, that are sanctioned. Of course, the areas under control of the Turkish occupation or of the United States and its SDF allies, or the terrorists, the jihadists, those areas, of course, don't have sanctions. Of course. Why would you sanction your friends? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's really disgusting, man. It's really heartbreaking. And this really has nothing to do with whether, you like the regime there or you don't like the regime there. This is aggression by Israel. This is aggression by the United States. It's theft of oil by the United States. This is aggression and occupation by Turkey. And Turkey's now discussing, openly saying that, hey, we want to invade more of Syria. We want to take another 30-kilometer stretch. I mean, are you high or something? Oh, I know. It's okay because Turkey's in NATO, so it's okay for them to do that. Right. How stupid of me to forget. Again, join me as we continue to unravel and expose and look at the destruction in Syria carried out by NATO and Israel. If it makes you sad, if it makes you outraged, good, you should be outraged and heartbroken by seeing these things.